Hi everyone, I am Albert Boris. Mario Party Superstars has finally been out for almost around a month or so now, and I can safely say that it's one of the greatest Mario Party games ever created. From the boards, to the music, to the minigames. Mario Party Superstars has the most minigame out of any main series Mario Party game at 100, and it's interesting because all of them come from past Mario Party installments, similar to what the top 100 did, but with way more fan favorites this time around. So you might wonder, which minigames are the best in this game? That's what I will take a look at in this video. And before we start this video, make sure to like, share and subscribe to my channel, because at 1000 subscribers, I'll make a ranking on every single Mario Party game. And make sure to follow me on Twitter, Discord and Reddit for updates. With that being said, let's begin. Let's start this list off with a minigame not a lot of people really think about, Rapid River Race. Mario Party 10, as we all know, had one of the weaker selections of minigames throughout the series. A lot of them were just kind of boring, but even then, I think it deserved better than just getting 3 minigames to return to this game. However, Rapid River Race, one of the minigames that did return, is perhaps one of the best from this game. It's so good that it made it to the top 10 of this list. This is a really interesting minigame, because while it's a racing minigame, it's also one of the most customizable ones of the entire series. You need to reach the end of a huge line with 3 different runaways, with urchins lurking in your way. Seems simple enough. The reason it's in the top 10 however, is because you can customize the speed you're going at. You can either take it easy or go all out. This is so great because you can choose how you want to play this minigame. Unlike other minigames, where there's usually just one rule, this one can be played differently every time you play it. The reason it's still only number 10 however, is the fact that while it does get progressively more difficult the higher the speed you choose, it's still very easy. As someone who's trying to get the world record for this level, the difficulty is less about avoiding all the obstacles and more so trying to reach the top speed as quickly as possible. But I digress, it's still one of the most unique concepts for a minigame, and I'm happy it made it into this game. Alright, I know what you're thinking. How the f is this minigame not number 1? We need to dislike this video as fast as possible and call over Bert Hours to take over his brother's channel. Now calm down and let's get back to square one. Dungeon Duos is awesome. It's one of my top 20 favorite minigames of all time. It's easily one of the most unique minigames of the entire franchise. This isn't just one minigame. It's several dozen minigames put into one. You have to work with your teammate to get to the end of a dungeon, but the road there is difficult. Teamwork is the key here, by opening up walls, spinning a carousel, finding the correct warp pipe, and lastly, blowing up your own hot air balloon. Not only does it truly encapsulate the spirit of teamwork, like a 2 vs 2 minigame should, it's also one of the few examples of a frame minigame. Now what is a frame minigame? You know what a frame story is? A story with many stories within it? Well, Dungeon Duos is a minigame with many minigames within it. Hence, a frame minigame. This concept makes the minigame so much more memorable, and I'm surprised there haven't been more minigames like this. The only other example I can think of is breakneck building from Mario Party 8. Speaking of which, why aren't there more Mario Party 8 minigames? Like, seriously? Anyways, Dungeon Duos is amazing. So why isn't it higher? Well, you see, I don't really have much of a reason as to why. It's just that there are minigames I think are even more fun and interesting to play than Dungeon Duos. It's not to say Dungeon Duos isn't amazing, because it is. It's just that there are so many good minigames in Mario Party Superstars that it had to be kind of snubbed. No hard feelings. Dungeon Duos is still one of the best minigames of all time. Time for some Mario Party 3 minigames. Mario Party 3, as we know, got the long end of the stick when it came to minigame distribution. Out of the 100 minigames included, 24 of them came from Mario Party 3. Some may think that's a little too high, but I think it was a good game to prioritize, as the minigames from this entry are a little more unique than the ones in the other games, often evolving on concepts found in minigames from Mario Party 1 and 2. And Tick-Tock Hop perfectly encapsulates that philosophy, as it's in every way an evolution of Hot Rope Jump from Mario Party 1 and 2. Hot Rope Jump is fine, but it's awfully simplistic. You just jump and jump and jump. Sure, it goes faster, but that doesn't change much really. You still just jump and jump. Well, Tick-Tock Hop takes the concept and makes it so much more unique. Instead of a jump rope on fire, you're on a clock arm and must jump over the longer clock arm whenever it comes over. Now how is that any different from hot rope jump, you might ask? Well, you see, not only will it go faster, it will change directions. Actually, even the arm you're standing on will change directions, so you must always be on your toes. Remember how predictable hot rope jump is? Well, Tic-Tac Hop is completely random what way or what speed the clock arms will go. This makes it so much more exhilarating, and it sure can be difficult if you don't know when to jump, but when you master it, it's seriously one of the most fun minigames of the entire entry. So much bullshit happens in this one, and I love it. One of my favorite types of minigames in the Mario Party series has got to be the one where you have to travel upwards as quickly as possible. There are a number of these minigames in the series, from Awful Tower to Peak Precision, and to one of my personal favorites, Leaf Leap. The thing about these types of minigames is that you need to be quick to get ahead of your opponents, and to get ahead quickly, you need to have fast reactions. React wrongly and you'll lose time. Leaf Leap isn't the first minigame of this type, but it's probably the most iconic one. You have to be the quickest by jumping on these leaves on a huge beanstalk, which will either be on the left or right side of it. What makes it difficult is the fact that you can only see one leaf above you at a time. So you can't just jump around left and right, you have to quickly react to where the next leaf is going to be, and then equally quickly jump to that leaf, and repeat. It's easily one of the most addicting concepts for a minigame, because you can always improve your score and become better. The furthest I've gotten is 168 meters, but I know even that isn't perfect. Now, as addicting as this minigame is, it's definitely not without its flaws. Because you can only see the leaf that's directly above you, you can't really plan out your jumping route. But that's not the biggest issue. It's the fact that the moveset is so limited. You can only jump, and which direction depends on where you flick the joystick. That's it, only jumping, no moving around. But once you've already flicked the joystick and are in mid-air, you can't undo that move. You might jump too quickly and only realize it was the wrong direction when you've already jumped. But you can't change that direction mid-air, so you have to just live with your mistake. Now granted, if you could do that, it would kind of remove the difficulty, but we'll talk more about this sooner. In the meantime, let's continue onward. The dual minigames in Mario Party Superstars were very unfairly distributed in comparison to the other minigame types. All Mario Parties with dual minigames typically had at least 10 of those, and some like 8 even had 20 of them. And yet Superstars, the ultimate nostalgia fest, only has 5. Luckily however, all 5 of them are pretty good nevertheless. One of them is the already aforementioned Tic-Tac Hop, but another one is Motor Router, the best racing minigame in Mario Party Superstars. You have to reach the end before your opponent does, inside of a massive octagon-shaped pipe, and to say it's simple would be an understatement. You can move on all 8 sides of this pipe, and it comes in handy because there are speed boosts you'll need to take and there are electrical amps covering certain spaces you have to avoid. The fact that you have free movement over the entire pipe makes it really hectic. Like many other minigames, this one also has a minigame that's very similar to it, Cosmic Slalom from Mario Party 8 in particular. It's almost the exact same minigame, only Cosmic Slalom is much more simpler. You can't drive on the walls in this one. Motor Router is much more complex and much more fun to play as a result, so I'm glad this one made it in over that one. It's overall just a really complex and fun minigame. And we have yet another Mario Party 3 minigame on this list, Snowball Summit. This minigame takes our winter childhood memories and maxes it up to a Mario Party minigame. And similar to Tic-Tac Hop, it's another minigame that takes a concept from an existing minigame, Bumper Balls, and makes it so much more unique. Snowball Summit is another one of those last man standing types of minigames that takes place on the peak of a mountain, but instead of, trying to bounce off your enemies, you need to roll massive snowballs onto your opponents. This might sound basic at first, just rolling off snowballs. But there's more to it, as you first need to create the snowball, and then you also need to roll it around in the snow to make it grow. As the bigger it is, the more power is used when it rolls over the opponent. Then you have to do all of this while also avoid getting hit by other people. It's one of the most hectic minigames of the entire roster and easily my favorite one from Mario Party 3. So to see it return is something I thought I could only dream of before this. Making one of the most memorable childhood memories into a Mario Party game was such a good idea, especially because it's also one with more things to do than just bouncing around like idiots waiting to get a tie. Overall, this is easily one of the best minigames in this game. However, leaf flip isn't the only upwards traversing minigame on this list, because my favorite one, which also returned as a minigame for Superstars, is What Goes Up. It's strange that both this one and leaf flip made it into this game, despite the two being very similar. However, I prefer What Goes Up by a landslide, as I feel there is a little more required input to play this minigame. Again, you have to jump up as high as you can, but on these Koopa Troopas floating in the middle of nowhere, some still and some are moving around. Whereas in Leaf Leap you had a fixed moveset in which you could merely just jump from left or right, What Goes Up has a much more free moveset which allows you to actually move around. Whereas in Leaf Leap you were screwed up if you made a wrong move, What Goes Up allows you to quickly fix your mistake if you accidentally flick the joystick wrong. You can actually move in whatever direction you want while in midair. And the good thing about that is that this minigame is built just around that. You have to move in both directions midair if you want to get up as high as possible. There's a little less pressure on you this time, and it's easier to jump from Koopa to Koopa than it is from leaf to leaf, and that makes What Goes Up one of the best minigames in this game. And fun fact, there was actually a nighttime version of this minigame back in Mario Party 6, where I had to be the first one to get to the bottom. Unfortunately, it was snubbed in this version, but hey, I prefer the daytime version, and it's one of my favorite minigames from this list. RNG is a pretty touchy subject when it comes to Mario Party. Sprinkle it all you want on the board gameplay, but when it comes to minigames, it should preferably be a little more skill. The minigames are the aspect of Mario Party where you're allowed to use your skills more than to let luck decide your fate, as a means to earn a few extra coins to show that you're the boss here. However, that's not to say RNG should be completely devoid from minigames. Some RNG minigames like Cardiators or Bowser's Big Blast manage to be fun, despite being luck-based. However, the best minigames aren't purely luck or purely skill based. It's when they're meshed together to form a minigame like Main Earth Escape, one of the only returning minigames from Mario Party 9. Hate the decision to not prioritize Wii minigames all you want, but you can't deny that they brought back a good ass minigame to represent this underrated gem. Main Earth Escape takes place on a, well, Manor, where you have to reach the ground floor of the mansion faster than anyone else by entering the correct door on each floor. Only one door leads to the next floor, while the others are just detours. It's kind of similar to the warp pipe section of Dungeon Duos. The thing that's so great about this minigame is that while it's RNG that decides which door is the correct one, you also need to remember which doors didn't work. Say this door leads to a detour, then you got to remember that both of those doors don't work, and then you have to do it with every door you passed. It really requires you to pay attention to what you're doing, and have a good memory, and that's why I love this minigame so much. You're always on your toes, there's a little bit of luck, but you also have to be a little competent to get anywhere. It also helps that the atmosphere makes your heart pound so much from the thrills this song gives you. Get it? All in all, Main Earth Escape is one of the best minigames from this entry. We're in the final countdown of this top 10 list now, starting off with the second spot with the final countdown! Jokes aside, this minigame is a serious blast. If you don't think this is the best minigame from Mario Party 7, what are you doing with your life? This minigame has you all standing on 9 platforms with a number on them, which will decrease for every second until it reaches 0, when it opens up and swallows anyone who's currently standing on them. And each platform has a different number. The concept is good enough. Making sure you stand on a platform with a high number is exhilarating, especially when you have 9 different platforms to keep your eye on, and it's even better when the platform resets, it won't always be from 9. It's a good idea, and frankly, even if this minigame was just this, it would still be in the top 10 of this list. However, what makes it even better is the fact that you're allowed to tackle your opponents. Think it's boring to just wait? Well, now you can try to knock down your opponents into pits as well. This, tied with the already hectic gameplay, makes this minigame even more hectic, obviously. You've got to not only make sure you're standing on a safe platform, but also away from your opponents to not get a stab in the back. Honestly, all of this makes it one of the potentially best minigames in the entire game. In fact, it could have been number 1, I wouldn't have minded that. It, like Main Earth Escape, is also a bit of a combination of luck and skill. It's such an amazing minigame, but it only got beaten by one slightly better one. However, before we get to the number 1 spot, I wanted to talk about 2 minigames that almost got into this list, some honorable mentions. These minigames were original on my list, but as I worked on it, they happened to fall out unfortunately. But they're still good, so I wanted to talk a little bit about them. For my first honorable mention, we have Messy Memory. Unlike other Mario Party 3 minigames, Messy Memory isn't really an evolution of an existing minigame from 1 and 2, like Tic Tac Hop is, but it's still one of the finest examples of a unique minigame from this game. This minigame is simple. You're told to memorize the order these items are placed on a shelf, and afterwards, Toads will shuffle it up and you must put it back as it was. There are a lot of minigames of this type in the series, but Messy Memory has always been the strongest one for me, just because it's not too hard nor too easy. While other minigames of this type like Mini Match are simply too big and don't include your input that much, Messy Memory is simply about your memory only. You need to remember, no one else is going to muffle up with your shelf, it's only your memory. It's fun to challenge your brain, and Messy Memory perfectly encapsulates that, and as such, I still have this minigame in my honorable mentions. And another honorable mention is the cult classic Paths of Peril. While Mario Party 4 wasn't as fortunate as Mario Party 3 when it came to minigame distribution, it was certainly quality over quantity. Mario Party 4 has some of the greatest minigames in the entire series, and in that regard, Mario Party Superstars brought back the best of the best, like Paths of Peril for example. Similar to Messy Memory, this minigame also has similar counterparts seen in other entries, like Unhappy Trials or Isthmus Speedway, but again, I'm happy it was Paths of Peril that made a cut. This minigame is difficult. Walking these slim paths can be really nerve-wracking, as one slip up will cost you several seconds. But it's a fun challenge, and the music made it all the more atmospheric. And in my opinion, it's even better in Mario Party Superstars than it was in 4. Not only are the visuals much better, but they even added an opera to the background, making it even eerier. It's a small detail like this that makes minigames so much better. Now that we've gone over the honorable mentions, we can finally talk about the best minigame in Mario Party Superstars, which is... Booksquirm. I mean, who didn't see it coming? Yeah, sure, it might be cliché to have Booksquirm dominate the list, but that's because it is the best minigame, without contest. Booksquirm exemplifies everything good I've said about all the minigames on this list so far, amplifies it, and has even more good qualities a decent minigame should have. Is the original? Yes, you're literally on a book whose pages are slowly being turned and you need to find a hole on each page to survive. How cool is that? Is it easy to understand? Yes. Is there a bit of luck? Yes. You can't decide where the holes are going to be. Is it skillful? Heck yes. Because you don't know where the holes will be, you have to not only make sure you stand under one, but you also need to keep your eyes on the top to see where the next holes will be. And noticing a hole might be hard. You really need to focus on the details, like where do the lines cut? This gets especially difficult the faster each page will fall as time goes by. Honestly, everything about this minigame is great, from the concept, to the music, to the luck, to the skill, you name it. There's no way I could put it below the number 1 spot. All the other minigames have at least one minor flaw. Booksquirm is literally flawless. And so there you have it, my top 10 favorite minigames of Mario Party Superstars. Which are your favorite minigames in this game? If you like this video then please consider liking, sharing and subscribing to my channel. Because next week or the week after that I will do the top 10 worst Mario Party Superstars minigames. But with that being said, I'm signing off.